Come take my hand and see the world around you. The time is right, just let the light surround you. And step by step you feel it coming alive, the feeling deep down inside.
The best memories are made when you take the road less traveled. Visit wanderingbutnotlost.com for some inspiration.
Today on Wanderings In, we are going to hit the road, partially on Route 66, but also other roads across America. Back in the 30s and 40s was kind of the heyday of the American road trip. Everyone was, at that point, almost everyone anyway, had a car. It was get out on the road and live the good life. And along the roads, of course, people were looking for opportunities and ways that they could make a buck on the people that were crossing the country. And a lot of roadside attractions popped up, kind of during that time in America. And one in particular has really become kind of iconic in a lot of ways, and that is the Tepee Motel. They're actually called the Wigwam Hotels. There's one in Arizona, which I think there's still a motel that you can actually stay at now. And if you haven't, because Jan, we were talking about this, you actually hadn't seen that before,
No.
or it didn't sound familiar to you, right?
Mm-mm.
This might sound familiar to you because it is paid homage to a lot in movies and stuff. If you think about Disney's California Adventure, Cars Land, the Cozy Cone Motel.
Yeah.
That is actually patterned after the Wigwam Hotel, right? So instead of wigwams and teepees, it's cones. So that is a little homage to the Wigwam Motels. But the Wigwam Motels actually started not on Route 66. They started and were created by a man named Frank Redford, and he grew up back in Kentucky. And I found this to be the most interesting part because it seems like I gravitate towards and are attracted to things around national parks. And there is a connection between the Wigwam Motels and the Mammoth Cave National Park in Kentucky. Mammoth Cave became a national park back in the mid-20s, I believe, or early 30s when it actually opened to the public, but it was classified earlier. And it's one of the largest cave systems in the world, actually, that is known, and tourists can go there. I haven't been to Mammoth Cave, but I always love to get back there. Anyway, he grew up not more than maybe 12, 15 miles from Mammoth Cave, and it was becoming more of a tourist destination, and more people were coming down there. So he got in his head that he always had an appreciation and a respect for the Native Americans. Had a lot of memorabilia and things he collected from Native Americans, and he thought, you know what, I'm going to build a lunchroom that's on the road that goes to Mammoth Cave, and I'm going to have visitors stop in, and I'm going to capitalize on the tourist crowd that's coming through Kentucky. So he built a teepee-shaped lunchroom. It was pretty small. It wasn't a huge thing, but he would serve food in there, breakfast and lunch, dinner and his things. Then he had, and as it became more popular, he started kind of adding on to that. He had a gas station, a little Wigwam gas station, or teepee gas station. It's kind of funny. And there is a very big difference between a teepee and a wigwam. He didn't, for some reason, like the word teepee. I don't think there was ever anything I've actually read definitively that said why he liked the word wigwam over teepee. Mm-hmm. But a teepee is the classic kind of conular shaped structure. A wigwam is actually it's built out of the same kind of materials, but it's more of a dome shape structure, like an igloo. Really is more what a wigwam is. But so forget the nomenclature here. He called them wigwams. I'm going to call them teepees the rest of the time.
But it is teepee.
But they are teepees, right? And actually, I think wigwam it's the word is, well, they're both kind of fun words to say, but maybe it look good on the sign. Who knows? But so we had a gas station there. So it was a lunchroom at a gas station. He built two little wigwam bathrooms or teepee bathrooms there next to the gas station. Okay. And one was for the squaws and one was for the braves. And as time went on, he decided he could maybe even expand it out a little bit more. So he actually added a few motel rooms there as well. I think on that particular one, he had 6 motels or 6 rooms at his little Wigwam village. And he called it the Wigwam Village. And his little catchphrase was, sleep in a teepee, actually. So there was a teepee in there. Anyway, just a few years later, it was becoming so successful. He thought, you know what, I'm going to pick up this concept and I'm going to move it down the road closer to the national park, and he opened up Wigwam Village number 2. So there were 2 within 5 miles of each other. So he already had like a little chain going here where he kind of laid out his design for what these wigwam villages were going to look like. And they all centered around usually a gas station, a kind of a main lobby type of teepee. And then there were in his initial design kind of a horseshoe type configuration of about 15 motel rooms with a open space in between where there was barbecuing and there were fire pits and things like that. So in the evenings, families could come out and kind of relax and enjoy themselves. So Wigwam number 2 right there in Kentucky as well. So he decided that this was such a great thing that he was going to open up wigwam villages across America. So he actually applied for his patent back in 1936.
Really?
Yeah, to get the patent on the wigwam teepee design and kind of the design of the hotel property, and started selling franchises. So there are at the culmination of his business here between 1933 and I believe 1958 is when he passed away, if I'm not mistaken. There were 7 wigwam villages that were actually built. He built the first 2 there in Kentucky. He built actually Wigwam Village number 7, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the other 4 wigwams actually were franchises. The largest wigwam village was actually in Orlando, Florida, well before Disney World and all the theme parks started happening down there. But a person got the franchise, opened a wigwam with 27 teepee motel rooms down there, all just really, really popular. Because if you're driving by, especially if you have kids, right,
Sure.
And looking for a place to stay, they were super kitschy, super, oh my gosh, I got to go check out and see what that's all about. There's only 3 that are still open
Active?
or you can go to today. Yeah. The Wigwam Village number 2, the second one that he built there near Mammoth Cave, is still open, that he actually built. Wigwam number 6, the one there in Arizona, is still open for business. And then there's one out here in San Bernardino, and that's how I stumbled on this. My Sweet Pea and I were out kind of traveling Route 66 in Southern California, and we were driving by, and I had heard that there was a Wigwam Village here in California, but I thought it was closed. And we pulled up to it. There's pictures in the show notes over at wbnowpodcast.com. It is awesome. I mean, it's not in the best area right now, so I don't know if I'd want to actually stay there, quite frankly, but they have renovated that place. There was one open. They were actually cleaning one. Super clean inside.
What is it? I'm dying to ask you, what does it look like inside? Is it like beds or cots?
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean,
is it a room? Is it how many people can sleep in one?
Yeah, they have like, I think there are 2 or 3 different size teepees and different accommodations inside. Everyone's got a little restroom, so it's got a little shower. I mean, little, because the shape of these things, right? And they're not huge. You'll see if you go to the show notes, but super cool. A little bathroom, little shower and toilet in there, and then there are some that have just a twin bed and a couch area and a little table.
Wow.
There's one that has 2 beds in it.
Not the way the Native Americans live now. Okay.
None of this was the way the Native Americans did it. Absolutely not. As a matter of fact.
So you're basically describing put a motel room in a teepee.
Yeah, it basically was that. Right. This one, I have to say, this one in San Bernardino, if you're ever out in Southern California and you have a car and you feel like seeing something unique, it is really cool to go see that. And the guy at the front desk, I don't know if he was a family member or not, might have been. Was giving us history about that and about their renovation and how it really kind of gone into disrepair, and they came in, bought it, and had really gave it a complete overhaul. And I'm going to tell you, it really looks. It's nice. I mean, it really is. Like I said, if it wasn't for where it's located, I would be staying there in a minute. It's just a very cool thing. And I'm not saying,
experience.
And I'm not trying to say don't, that it's like, in some crime-ridden area. It's just it's just really not a place. I guess the point is, you're not going to stay there and go to Disneyland, or you're not going to stay there and go to the beach. Yeah, when it was
first built, it was out in the middle of probably orange groves.
Yeah, and there were some pictures of that he had in the lobby that was just so cool. cool to see that. So Frank Redford, you know, he kind of had his American dream come to fruition, right? He didn't start a huge chain like his, you know, his original intent was, but he did have people that would buy his franchises. They, for the most part, because it was an open franchise, so you know they could, you know, use the name and do all that kind of stuff, just pay him a royalty, which is what a franchise is. But they, most of them even stuck to his original design, except that one in Florida where they built more teepees. Most of them stuck to that 15 teepee design and kind of the horseshoe shaped, and so you know he had a little dream, you know, that came to fruition. He built the one out there in San Bernardino. That's Wigwam, or well, it's on the border of San Bernardino and Rialto on Route 66. He built that one himself, Wigwam Village number 7. He actually built a larger wigwam behind kind of the lobby area there, and it made it an apartment. And actually, he lived there at that particular Wigwam Village until he passed away. So you know, he was committed and loved what he had done. It was hard to find a lot of information about really his total backstory. You know, I always take a step back in situations like this because, you know, this is one of those things where I always think it's good to reflect and do a little more research, right? You know, was he capitalizing and taking advantage of the Native Americans is what the first thing I started thinking about, because I'm not going to go out and promote and talk about someone who, you know, his intentions were not really good, right? But the things I could find out about him were actually very positive. So he wasn't making fun. It wasn't a situation where he was, showing disrespect. He did have a lot of Native American artifacts. He actually employed a lot of Native American people earlier on to actually, you know, help with the construction and also work in the places. Now, you know, once again, was he just, you know, trotting out the Native Americans to get people in? I don't know. But, you know, no matter what our society has changed a lot over the years about how we look at things. But these are just classic structures of the time. And like I said, you know, they have been in countless movies and even in theme parks now. So if you have a chance to check out either the one in Arizona, check that out. Check out the one in San Bernardino. It's worth the extra little drive off the interstate to go check out the one of Frank Redford's Wigwam villages.